Hey, Wisconsin continues a tradition of nearly 2 decades with the State of the Tribes address. Good evening, I'm John Stofflet.
And I'm Lee Mills. The speech before the state's top officials is a chance to shed light on the challenges impacting Native communities statewide.
NBC 15's Michelle Beck is live in the studio now. Michelle, that speech comes at a crucial time in the state's budget process.
Yeah, that's right. The chairman who delivered the address also made that connection, calling on the crowd of legislators who are actively working on the budget.
Represented in the rotunda, Wisconsin's 11 tribal nations.
Let's tackle health care.
Chairman Robert Van Zyl Jr. of the Secaucus Chippewa community delivered this year's State of the Tribes.
My tribe is located 45 minutes from any emergency care setting. With that being said, there's a large burden put on tribes to act as emergency caregivers.
He named a number of challenges like the pressure to pay competitive wages and recruitment for healthcare workers. He gave tangible ways for the state's top elected officials to help, like allowing tribes to function with nurse practitioners without doctor supervision.
I would encourage everyone with state budget responsibilities to continue to work with the tribes. We have insight into what's working and what we can be improved upon.
Ahead of the address, Republican legislators met with press. The Joint Finance Committee's co-chair, Representative Mark Bourne, did not give any specifics about budget priorities or discussions involving Native groups.
I think that we have a history of working with our tribal communities on the funds that the tribes bring forward to invest in a variety of ways in every budget, and this budget discussions will be the same.
Tackling another health concern, substance abuse, the Secaucus Chippewa chairman said all 11 tribes are funding a youth treatment facility.
We're doing our part.
Yeah, he went on to say we need your help there. Fighting substance abuse was another big component of the address. The chairman cited untreated mental health as a cause and asked for more investment in law enforcement and legal action against drug suppliers. Live in the studio, Michelle Beck, NBC 15 News.